Did you know that on average, rent has increased by 29.3% in Washington Heights in the past 25 years? If you are guessing gentrification is the underlying force behind these statistics, you guessed right. My name is Ramon Brito, and I was born in New York City. I spent my early childhood in the Dominican Republic before my family moved back to the city when I was starting high school. I lived in Washington Heights since. As a native resident of this community, as a young professional who has been involved with the local community through my job at Alianza Dominicana Cultural Center, as a father of a 3-week-old son being raised in this neighborhood, the subject of gentrification is one I think about often. What is gentrification? Gentrification is a phenomenon that describes the improvement and renovation of the particular urban area, which results from the influx of more wealth of individuals. A byproduct of the improvement of the real estate and facilities is the appreciation of real estate prices, which frequently leads to the locals' original population being displaced. Gentrification frequently has racial implications, since in many instances the newcomers are white and the local community being displaced is ethnic origin and or African American. In the media, gentrification is frequently portrayed as a entirely negative phenomenon, but is it more complex than that? And it has both positive and negative impacts on a place and a community? Washington Heights is a neighborhood in Upper Manhattan located north of Harlem, above 155th Street, south of Inwood, and sprawling between the Hudson and Harlem rivers. It is named after Fort Washington, which was used to defend the area during the American Revolutionary War from British assaults. A quick glance at the history of the neighborhood reveals that Washington Heights has quite a diverse ethnic history. Irish immigrants dominated the area in the early 1900s. Mostly German Jews fleeing Nazism prevailed in the 30s and 40s. The area became known as the Frankfurt on the Hudson. Greeks settled in the 50s and 60s, leading to another nickname, the Astoria of Manhattan. Currently, the neighborhood is mostly Latino and heavily Dominican. Dominicans migrated here in the 80s and 90s. The socioeconomic history of the neighborhood has also been tumultuous. In the 80s, the Heights became known as the second largest drug district in the northeastern U.S., Harlem being number one. By the early 2000s, crime rates started to drop as police presence increased. Nowadays, Upper Washington Heights is considered quite safe. Some point out that the drop of crime rates and general renewal of the area coincide in time with the changes in the makeup of local population, as some Dominicans started to move to the Bronx and other Hispanic groups, such as Ecuadorians, started to move in. I have lived in Washington Heights for 17 years now, and I have seen the neighborhood change significantly over time. I remember the violence in the early 2000s, which was also accompanied by loud music from Dominican gatherings. Today, it feels safer, but people also seem to be on the move a lot more. Who has time for music and just gathering with the family? I also feel that the neighborhood itself has more than one face. The hipster coffee shop on 191st and Cabrini Boulevard, and the nearby restaurants with outdoor seating that make you feel like you are in the East Village on the one hand, and the Dominican bodegas on the east side, where not speaking Spanish means not getting a meal on the other hand. Going back to the original question about gentrification and the good and the bad behind it all. On the positive side, gentrification brings diversity to a place as newcomers settle in of a different backgrounds than the local community. In the case of Washington Heights in particular, more individuals with higher education and better paid jobs have started to move in, which could have positive impacts on local security and the quality of public services, education, and healthcare, as these higher educated individuals demand the improvement of these services and or as they create private business that provide these services at the required level of quality. Another positive development could be the improvement of local economic opportunities. Real estate owners will see the value of their property appreciate. New business will be created to serve the needs of the new community and potentially attract consumers and clients from other areas as the brand value of the neighborhood appreciates. There is also potential for the sense of community to be strengthened if these newcomers are united by common cultural and socio-economic background or united by a feeling that they are engaged in building a new community together. On the flip side, gentrification in the area will mean that the locals will be pushed out, both resident and business owners. Residents will need to seek housing in more affordable areas, as they cannot compete with the higher educated and better paid newcomers, as affordable housing policies are lacking. Business owners will find the services and goods they offer irrelevant. Local bodega and ethnic food restaurants are already being replaced with brand name grocery stores and chain restaurants that newcomers better relate to. As a result, the current cultural and history will gradually be erased and possibly forgotten depending on the speed and degree of gentrification and the presence of any active effort to preserve the memory of the coming generation, and possibly forgotten depending on the speed and degree of gentrification. What all that will mean for my family in particular remains to be seen. My wife is technically speaking a representative of the newcomers in the neighborhood. She is an Ivy League school graduate with a corporate job in Midtown and first moved here because she was priced out of the real estate market in the hip neighborhood of the East Village, where she lived after college graduation. She always says that if we had some extra cash laying around, we'd definitely consider buying an apartment here, as she sees the neighborhood as one that would continue to develop in the future. Our rent rise by a mere percent or so year on year. We are well aware that this could change anytime, given Washington Heights is one of the last few affordable neighborhoods left in Manhattan, and gathering a lot of attention from renters on the lookout for a good deal. Now that we have a small child, it's hard to find any of our belongings among gazillions baby essentials in our one-bedroom apartment. We are quickly realizing the need for more spacing going forward. A two-bedroom apartment, while considered affordable on paper, may just not work with our financial situation. We may need to move out of the neighborhood or of the country, for that matter, when we look for a full cost of a raising child in the U.S. these days. My mother, sister, and niece also live in Washington Heights. My niece will be going to high school next year, which has made my sister start an intensive apartment hunt for an affordable apartment, as she is anticipating raising education costs as my niece contemplates going to a Catholic specialized high school and then college. She hasn't found a place yet, but the likely candidates are all outside of Washington Heights or in the Bronx instead. It seems like renting in the neighborhood and providing quality education for children can go hand in hand for many. Others from my extended family have also recently moved out because of the costs associated with raising young children here. Some to the Bronx and some to New Jersey. Looking into the future, 20 years out or so, a time when my son will be a young adult, I wonder if Washington Heights will have become an extension of the Upper West Side, unaffordable to any short of a millionaire. Will all Manhattan have become a fortress for the 1%? Or would the community and city have intervened and preserved some affordable housing? And even with affordable housing, will a middle-class person choose to live in a community that does not feel like one's own, surrounded by people who are different? And what will happen to, let's say, the Bronx? Manhattan outgrown. Would Bronx be next on the list of gentrification? If so, what will happen to the middle and lower class? Would they all be pushed out to, say, Jersey, forced into long commutes as jobs would likely remain in Manhattan? Or would they simply move out of the area altogether and look for life in a different city? Ultimately, in the medium term, the new Washington Heights will likely be a hybrid of its current Latin American character and culture being brought in by mostly white, higher educated individuals. Further out, it's hard to tell. I suppose it depends on a lot of factors. How the economy does, both the country and the city especially. How vocal and determined the local community is in effort to preserve the local culture and history and to fight for affordable housing. Washington Heights could become an extension of the Upper West Side, or it could turn into a new hybrid community.